What started as quiet whispers inside Westminster has suddenly exploded into a full-blown media storm. And this time the tension feels different because the questions are no longer coming from gossip blogs or anonymous commentators, but from official corridors of power where every word carries weight. Reports circulating in London suggest lawmakers have begun asking uncomfortable questions connected to royal protocols, transparency, and long-standing procedures. And while no one is rushing to confirm details publicly, the very fact that discussions are happening behind closed doors has sent shockwaves through Royal Watch circles on both sides of the Atlantic. Sources familiar with parliamentary processes say this isn't about tabloid drama or personal vendettas, but about procedures, paperwork and precedents that suddenly don't line up the way they should. And when institutions built on tradition notice inconsistencies, things tend to escalate quickly. Observers point out that these conversations have allegedly been triggered by renewed scrutiny of how royal conventions were handled during a period already clouded by secrecy, conflicting timelines, and carefully managed public statements. And the renewed focus has reportedly caught certain California-based royals completely off guard. Insiders claim there is visible anxiety within Meghan Markle's camp as the discussion shifts away from social media noise and into formal channels that don't respond to PR pressure or emotional narratives. Unlike previous controversies where statements, interviews, or strategic silence could shape the conversation, parliamentary curiosity operates on a different level, because once questions are formally raised, they don't simply disappear. People close to the situation say Meghan believed this chapter of her life had been safely sealed off, filed away under the category of personal matters that no one would dare revisit. But the reality appears far less secure as institutional curiosity grows. Royal analysts stress that this isn't about targeting a child or invading privacy, but about understanding whether established rules were followed, and whether official records reflect what the public was told, and that distinction is exactly what makes the situation so uncomfortable. The timing alone has raised eyebrows because this renewed interest comes at a moment when Meghan has been actively reshaping her public image through lifestyle ventures, selective appearances, and carefully curated messaging, aimed at projecting calm confidence and forward momentum. Yet behind the scenes, sources suggest the mood is anything but relaxed as legal advisors, PR strategists, and trusted confidants reportedly scramble to assess potential fallout. Those familiar with royal protocol explain that when questions reach parliamentary ears, they tend to focus on governance, documentation, and precedent rather than emotion, which means dramatic interviews and heartfelt storytelling carry little influence. The concern, according to insiders, is not about a single revelation but about a chain reaction, because once one procedural question is asked, it often leads to another, and then another until the entire timeline is placed under a microscope. What makes this situation particularly delicate is the long history of tension between Meghan and British institutions, a relationship marked by public accusations, counterclaims, and a narrative that often paints her as a victim of outdated systems. Critics argue that this long-running narrative may now be working against her because institutions that feel publicly attacked tend to respond by becoming more rigid, not more sympathetic. Analysts suggest that lawmakers may feel compelled to demonstrate impartiality by ensuring that no one, regardless of fame or global profile, is perceived as existing outside established norms. That sense of institutional self-preservation is powerful, and once activated, it rarely stops until clarity is achieved, whether that clarity is comfortable or not. Royal commentators also note that the renewed focus has reignited debates that many assumed were settled years ago. Debates about transparency, titles, succession optics, and the way information was released to the public during a highly sensitive period. While no official statements have confirmed specific allegations, the mere suggestion that formal inquiries could be discussed has been enough to reignite skepticism among critics who have long questioned inconsistencies in public timelines and official announcements. Supporters, on the other hand, argue that Meghan has been unfairly scrutinized from the beginning and that renewed questioning reflects an obsession rather than a genuine concern for protocol. Yet even they acknowledge that parliamentary interest is a different beast entirely. According to sources, Meghan's immediate concern isn't public opinion, which has fluctuated for years, but institutional consequences that are far harder to predict or control. Public backlash can be managed, trends can fade and headlines can shift, but official processes move at their own pace and tend to leave a permanent paper trail. Advisors are reportedly worried about how renewed scrutiny could intersect with past statements, interviews, and published accounts, especially when those accounts were crafted for emotional impact rather than procedural precision. Every word spoken publicly now risks being re-examined through a legalistic lens, and that alone is enough to cause sleepless nights for anyone accustomed to controlling the narrative. There is also the question of why this is resurfacing now, and several theories are circulating among royal watchers. Some suggest it's linked to broader discussions about reform, transparency, and modernization within British institutions, while others believe it reflects a growing pushback against what some lawmakers privately view as selective storytelling that challenged public trust. Whatever the motivation, insiders agree that the sudden shift from online speculation to institutional curiosity represents a significant escalation. The silence from official representatives has only intensified speculation, because in royal matters, silence often signals deliberation rather than dismissal. Meanwhile, Meghan's critics have seized on the moment, arguing that this development validates long-held concerns about contradictions and unanswered questions, while her supporters warn against turning procedural discussions into personal attacks. That divide has played out predictably across American media, where coverage often frames the situation as another chapter in a long-running transatlantic culture clash. Yet beneath the polarized commentary lies a more sobering reality, because institutions are less interested in drama and more interested in consistency, and consistency is exactly what skeptics claim has been missing. Those close to the situation describe Meghan as feeling blindsided by the shift in tone, believing that distance, time, and a new life abroad had effectively insulated her from renewed scrutiny. The idea that discussions could quietly resurface within parliamentary circles reportedly shattered that sense of security. Friends say she feels the ground shifting beneath her feet, not because of any single accusation, but because the narrative is no longer being driven by interviews or podcasts, but by processes she cannot influence. That loss of control is said to be deeply unsettling for someone who has long relied on strategic communication to manage public perception. Royal historians point out that this moment underscores a broader truth about institutions versus individuals, because while individuals can retreat, rebrand, or relocate, institutions remember, document, and revisit unresolved questions indefinitely. The belief that controversy fades completely over time is often an illusion, especially when records, procedures, and precedents are involved. If anything, time can sharpen institutional curiosity, particularly when new contexts or leadership prompt a fresh look at old files. As speculation continues, commentators are watching closely for any sign of official acknowledgement, because even a carefully worded statement confirming routine discussions would elevate the situation to an entirely new level. Until then, the vacuum is being filled by conjecture, leaked whispers, and increasingly bold headlines, each adding to the sense that something significant is unfolding behind closed doors. Meghan's silence, whether strategic or cautious, has only amplified the tension, leaving audiences to wonder whether this is simply another fleeting controversy or the beginning of a far more serious reckoning. What is clear is that this moment represents a shift in the ongoing saga, moving it away from personality-driven drama and toward institutional scrutiny that operates beyond emotion or popularity. For Meghan, that shift may prove more challenging than any interview backlash or social media storm she has faced before, because institutions don't forget, don't trend, and don't move on simply because public attention drifts elsewhere. As the story continues to develop, all eyes remain fixed on what emerges next from Westminster, because whatever comes out of those quiet discussions could reshape the narrative in ways no one fully anticipates. And if this chapter feels unsettling now, the next update may be even more explosive.